Stop. Don't look away yet. What you're about to see in slow motion is not a behavior problem. It is not a parenting failure. It is not a sign that something has gone wrong. What you're watching is the most important social learning event in this toddler's entire week. Right here, this exact second, two small humans are running a live experiment on power, ownership, fairness, and relationship, and neither of them has a single word to describe what they're doing. They don't need one. Their brains are already taking notes. Here's what most parenting advice gets wrong about toddler conflict. It treats conflict as a glitch, a deviation from normal social behavior that needs to be corrected, managed, smoothed over, or resolved as quickly as possible. But what if that's completely backwards? What if conflict, specifically toddler conflict, isn't a breakdown of social development, but the engine of it? Developmental researchers have known this for decades, but somehow it hasn't made it into the conversation most parents are having. Studies tracking children from ages 2 through 6 consistently show the same unexpected pattern. Toddlers who engage in more peer conflict, not less, tend to develop stronger social competence by school age, higher empathy scores, better negotiation skills, more nuanced understanding of other people's emotions. This is not an accident. Conflict is not the opposite of social learning. Conflict is the social learning. It's the curriculum, the whole course. And every time a child grabs, shoves, screams, mine, or bites, they are showing up to class. So what exactly is being learned in a toddler conflict? Let's stay with two kids on a playground. One truck, two sets of hands. The child who is holding the truck is learning something no one can teach him in a circle time lesson. What it feels like to have something you value threatened. He is mapping for the very first time the emotional landscape of possession. The feeling of mine is not just a word. It's a physiological experience. His heart rate is up. His grip tightens. His brain is laying down a memory that will inform every future negotiation he ever has. Now, look at the child who wants the truck. She is running a far more complex experiment. She's testing. Will reaching work? Will reaching and pulling work? What is this person's threshold? Can I outlast them? Is screaming useful here? What happens to his face when I try to take it? That last question, what happens to his face, that is the beginning of theory of mind, the beginning of understanding that another person has inner states, reactions, and feelings that are distinct from her own. She is not doing this consciously. She couldn't explain it if you asked her. But her brain is doing it, automatically, because this is exactly the kind of social problem her brain was designed to solve. This is where researcher Jaak Panksepp's work becomes extraordinary. Panksepp spent decades studying the neuroscience of play in mammals. What he found was that rough-and-tumble play, the kind that looks chaotic, physical, even aggressive, activates ancient neural circuits in the brain that are directly linked to pro-social behavior. The push and pull of peer conflict isn't a failure of social wiring. It is the wiring being installed. Peter Gray, whose research on free play fundamentally challenged how we think about childhood, argues something even bolder, that children deprived of unstructured peer conflict, the kind adults typically rush to intervene in, don't develop the social resilience and problem-solving capacity that comes from navigating those conflicts themselves. So what gets built in the chaos of a toddler argument that no structured lesson can replicate? First, cause and effect in social space. I pushed. He cried. Something in me registered the connection between my action and someone else's pain. That is the very first thread of moral understanding, and it only gets woven through lived experience. Second, negotiation without language. Long before toddlers have the words for compromise, they are practicing it physically, offering an alternate toy, taking turns without being told to. These aren't adult-designed solutions, they're solutions toddlers arrive at themselves, through trial and error, when given the time and space to work through conflict without immediate rescue. Third, emotional calibration. How much distress does this situation actually warrant? A toddler who navigates many low-stakes conflicts develops a kind of emotional reference library. They learn what real loss feels like versus temporary frustration. They learn their own capacity to cope, to recover, to try again. These are not soft skills. These are the foundational architecture of a socially intelligent human being. Now let's go inside the brain. When a toddler enters a social conflict, their brain is doing something extraordinary and extraordinarily difficult at the same time. The amygdala fires first. This is the alarm system. Threat detected. It doesn't know the difference between a bear and a peer taking your truck. It responds the same way. Stress hormones flood the body. Heart rate spikes. Everything narrows to this moment, this loss, this want. In adults, the prefrontal cortex, the rational, regulating, let's think this through, part of the brain, steps in quickly to modulate that alarm. But in a toddler, that prefrontal cortex won't be fully developed until their mid-20s. They are running on full amygdala, no brakes. This is not bad behavior. This is neurological reality. But here is the part that is genuinely remarkable. Every single time a toddler goes through a conflict cycle activation, peak distress, and eventual resolution, they are exercising their stress response system. Think of it like resistance training for the nervous system. The stress goes up, and then, if the environment is safe, if an adult doesn't swoop in before the process completes, the stress comes down. The child discovers, in their body, that they can survive this, that the feeling passes, that there is an after the feeling. This is the biological foundation of resilience. Researchers studying stress inoculation in early childhood use a phrase worth remembering. Tolerable stress builds the brain. The key word is tolerable, not traumatic, not chronic. Tolerable meaning stress that is proportional, temporary, and resolved in a safe, relational context. A toddler conflict on a well-supervised playground? That is almost always tolerable stress. Handled well, it doesn't just teach a social lesson. It literally builds the neural architecture of emotional regulation. There is something else happening in these moments. In the heat of a social conflict, the brain's mirror neuron system activates strongly. This is the system that underlies empathy, the capacity to feel what another person is feeling. In peer conflict, that system doesn't just observe another's distress. It rehearses the full emotional sequence. What it is to want, to lose, to cry, to be seen. Your toddler in a conflict is not just reacting. Their brain is simulating, running a model of the other child's experience in real time. Theory of mind doesn't get built by watching videos about feelings. It gets built by being in the feeling, with another person, and having to navigate what happens next. Now, the hardest question. What should you do when your child is in the middle of all this? The reflex is to intervene. Immediately, to resolve it, to make it stop. That reflex comes from love. But the research asks us to complicate it. Studies consistently show that adult intervention in toddler-peer conflict, particularly when it comes too fast, significantly reduces the amount of social learning that occurs. When an adult steps in within the first 10 seconds of a conflict, children are less likely to develop self-generated solutions, less likely to repair the relationship themselves, and less likely to transfer the learning to future conflicts. Peter Gray's research on free play environments found that children in heavily supervised playgrounds, with frequent adult intervention, showed measurably less conflict resolution capacity over time than children in environments where adults held back, watched, and only stepped in when safety was genuinely at risk. So when do you step in? The rule is not complicated, but it requires nerve to follow. Step in for safety. If a child is at real risk of being hurt, biting that breaks skin, hitting that escalates dangerously, a significant power imbalance, where one child is overwhelmed, you move. Immediately. That's not intervention. That's protection. Step in when a child is completely flooded. There is a difference between the distress of conflict and total dysregulation. When a child has passed the threshold of their capacity to cope, when they are shaking, hyperventilating, or completely shut down, that is the moment they need a regulated adult, not more conflict time. For everything else, wait, witness, narrate. Come close enough to be present, but hold the space before acting. What does that look like in practice? You both want the truck. That's really hard. I wonder what will happen. That one sentence does three things simultaneously. It names the emotions, it validates the difficulty, and it communicates your fundamental belief that these two small humans are capable of working something out. That belief communicated in your body language, your pace, your willingness to wait, is one of the most powerful social scaffolding tools a parent possesses. Because what toddlers need from you in conflict isn't resolution. It's a witness, a calm, patient witness who trusts them to find their way through. I want you to think differently about that playground the next time you're standing at its edge. It is not a place where children play until conflict breaks out and the real work of parenting begins. It is the work. That sandbox is a laboratory. Every disagreement over the slide, every argument about the rules of a made-up game, every tearful negotiation over whose turn it is, these are experiments in human relating, conducted by scientists with no formal training and absolutely no fear of failure. They grab and shove and cry and bite and storm off and come back. And each cycle, even the ugly ones, especially the ugly ones, lays down something that no flashcard, no lesson, no perfectly curated playdate will ever replicate. The social intelligence of the adult they will become is being assembled right now in the chaos and heat and terrible noise of toddler conflict. Your job, most of the time, is not to end the experiment. Your job is to make sure the lab is safe enough to run it. Because the toddlers who fight really fight, and fail, and try again, they're not the ones falling behind. They're the ones doing the work.